The massive chamber stretched out like a silver ball turned upside down. Thousands of seats filled the space, each one holding a different alien species. Some had tentacles that moved like water. Others had scales that caught the light like mirrors. A few floated in clear tanks filled with strange gas. But they all had one thing in common today. They all wanted the humans gone. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center speaking platform. His forearms moved as he talked, and his voice carried through the chamber like thunder. He was tall, even for his species, with skin that looked like polished stone. When he spoke, others listened. "Fellow members of the Galactic Federation," Zethkar began, his voice full of authority. "We have talked about this problem for 3 full cycles now. The humans have broken our peace agreements 17 times. They build weapons when we ask for peace. They explore space without asking permission. They refuse to follow our rules." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Valthari delegation clicked their claws against their seats. The gas-breathing Nefek made bubbling sounds that meant yes in their language. Even the peaceful Harmony Collective, who almost never voted to hurt anyone, nodded their flower-like heads. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human section, which looked very small compared to all the other delegations. She was the only human in the chamber. Her dark hair was pulled back simply, and she wore a plain blue uniform. She looked calm, almost peaceful, as she listened to Zethkar list all the reasons why humanity was dangerous. "They have warships," Zethkar continued, his voice getting louder. "Not defense ships, not patrol vessels, warships, built for one purpose only, to fight and destroy. What peaceful species needs such weapons?" The chamber erupted in worried chatter. Sarah noticed that Zethkar did not mention that every single one of those warships was currently defending trade routes from pirates, or protecting colony worlds from raiders that other species could not stop. "They expand too quickly," Zethkar went on. "In just 200 cycles, they have spread to 47 different systems. They do not ask permission. They do not wait for approval. They simply go where they want to go." Again, he did not mention that humans had only settled on empty worlds, or that they had saved 6 different species from extinction by giving them new homes when their own worlds died. The Hegemony Ambassador raised all 4 arms for silence. But the worst crime is their refusal to submit to proper oversight. When we ask them to limit their technology, they refuse. When we demand they share their military secrets, they refuse. When we require them to follow Federation command structure, they refuse. This is not the behavior of a peaceful member species. Sarah almost laughed at that. The Federation wanted humans to give up every advantage they had, to become helpless and dependent like most other species. She had tried to explain many times that humans shared their technology freely, just not their weapons technology. But the Federation wanted everything. "The solution is simple," Zethkar announced. "We must vote to remove Earth from the Federation. All human ships must return to their home system within 30 standard days. We will place an energy barrier around their star system. No ship gets in, no ship gets out. The human threat will be contained." The chamber fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The vote that would decide humanity's fate in the galaxy. All those in favor of Resolution 847B, the banishment of Earth and containment of the human species, please register your vote now. Lights began appearing throughout the chamber. Green lights meant yes, they supported the banishment. Red lights meant no, they opposed it. Sarah watched as green light after green light appeared. The Hegemony delegation showed solid green. The Trade Consortium was green. Even the peaceful species were voting green. Sarah looked at her own voting panel. She pressed the red button without hesitation. A small red light appeared in the human section, the only red light in the entire massive chamber. The voting continued for several minutes, but the result was clear from the beginning. When it ended, the large display screen showed the final count. 847 votes for banishment. 1 vote against. Zethkar smiled, showing teeth like white daggers. Resolution 847B passes. Earth is hereby expelled from the Galactic Federation, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in cheers and celebration. Species that had barely spoken to each other in decades were congratulating one another. The human problem was solved. The galaxy was safe. Sarah stood slowly and walked to the speaking platform. The chamber gradually grew quiet as delegates noticed the human approaching. When she reached the center, she looked around at all the faces, some pleased, some worried, some simply curious. Distinguished delegates, she began, her voice clear and steady. The Federation has made its choice. I respect that choice. Humanity will comply with the banishment order. This surprised many in the chamber. They had expected anger, or begging, or threats. Instead, the humans seemed almost calm about being thrown out of the galaxy. All human vessels will return to the Sol system within the required time frame, Sarah continued. We will not resist the placement of the energy barrier. We will accept our isolation. Zethkar frowned. This was too easy. He had expected the humans to fight this decision. Sarah smiled then. Not a sad smile, but something else. Something that made a few of the more intelligent delegates feel suddenly uncomfortable. However, she said, I think there may be some confusion about what this vote actually accomplished. The Federation voted to banish Earth. You voted to quarantine the Sol system. But I want to make something very clear. You did not vote to banish humanity. Before anyone could ask what she meant, Sarah gave a small bow to the assembly. The Federation has made its choice. Now humanity will make ours. Good day, distinguished delegates. She turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a room full of confused aliens who were just beginning to realize they might not understand humans quite as well as they thought they did. Outside the chamber, Sarah's smile grew wider. The Federation had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They just did not know it yet. The first human ships started moving toward Earth 3 days after the vote. Federation monitoring stations tracked every vessel. Massive colony transports that carried entire cities. Sleek research ships, cargo haulers that moved goods between worlds, and the feared human warships that had caused so much worry. Admiral Kress of the Federation Defense Force watched the displays from his command center. He had expected chaos, maybe desperate attempts to negotiate, perhaps even attacks on Federation facilities. Instead, he saw something that bothered him more than any of those things: perfect order. Sir, his aide reported, the humans are following evacuation procedures exactly as written. They're moving in organized groups, following approved routes, and maintaining proper spacing between ships. Kress stared at the display screen, showing human ship movements. Red dots moved steadily toward Earth, like blood flowing through veins. Any communication intercepts. That's the strange part, sir. They're barely talking to each other. Just basic navigation and safety updates. No complaints, no arguments, no panic. This was wrong. Kress had been watching alien species for 40 years. When people got forced from their homes, they got angry. They fought. They at least complained. The humans were acting like they had planned this whole thing. On the colony world of Haven 7, Maria Santos packed her family's belongings into storage containers. Her children asked why they had to leave, and she told them they were going on a long trip to visit Earth. She did not mention that they could never come back. The local Federation administrator, a nervous Quilani named Jeff, came to watch the human evacuation. He expected to see tears, anger, maybe even begging to stay. Instead, he found humans working together like parts of a machine. They helped each other pack. They took care of the elderly and sick. Excuse me, Jeff said to Maria as she loaded the last container. Are you not upset about leaving? Maria looked at him with the same calm expression that Ambassador Chen had worn during the vote. The Federation made its choice, Administrator Jep. We respect that choice. But this is your home. You've lived here for 20 years. Maria's smile was gentle, but somehow unsettling. Home is where humans are, Administrator, and soon all humans will be together. As the last human ship left Haven 7, Jep felt strangely empty. The colony would continue working, of course. Other species would take over human jobs, but somehow the place felt different already, less alive. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Humans left their homes, their businesses, their lives, and showed no anger at all. They just left. By day 20, something else started happening. A communication satellite near the Kepler system stopped responding to commands. An automated mining platform in the Vega sector began producing ore at half capacity. A few trade route navigation beacons started giving slightly wrong directions. Federation engineers investigated each problem and found reasonable explanations. Equipment got old, software developed bugs, cosmic radiation sometimes damaged circuits. These things happened all the time, but they were happening more often now. On day 25, the last human ship entered Sol system. The Federation's greatest engineering project began immediately, an energy barrier that would surround the entire solar system. 50 different species contributed technology and resources. It was beautiful work, invisible but stronger than any physical wall. The barrier was finished on day 30, exactly when the banishment period ended. Earth and everything around it disappeared behind an impenetrable wall of energy. Scanners could not see through it. Radio waves could not pass it. Nothing could get in or out. The Federation celebrated. The human threat was contained. That was when the real problems started. 2 days after the barrier was completed, the main communication network linking the Federation capital to the outer colonies failed completely. Not just damaged, gone. Engineers found that the quantum relays had simply stopped working, as if someone had turned them off. A week later, the automated defense systems protecting 3 major trade worlds shut down without warning. Pirates attacked 2 cargo convoys before defense fleets could respond. After 2 weeks, food production systems on 12 agricultural worlds began failing. Not broken equipment. The artificial intelligence systems that managed crop rotation, weather control, and harvest scheduling just stopped working properly. Federation engineers worked frantically to fix each problem. They found something disturbing in every broken system. The core programming, the basic code that made everything work, had human fingerprints all over it. Not just human designed, that would have been obvious. The code looked like it belonged to other species. It followed other species' programming languages and design philosophies. But when engineers looked deeper, they found clever tricks and elegant solutions that only humans used. It's like they hid their work inside our work, explained Chief Engineer Voss to the Federation Council. We thought we were using hegemony navigation systems, but the core algorithms came from human mathematics. We thought our communication networks used collective harmony protocols, but the compression technology was human-designed. Council member Zethkar felt the first stirrings of worry. Are you saying humans sabotaged our systems? No, sir. That's the problem. The human code isn't breaking our systems. Our systems are breaking because the human code isn't there anymore. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For decades, humans had been quietly improving every piece of technology they touched. They had made Federation systems work better, faster, more efficiently. But they had never told anyone they were doing it. Now that the humans were gone, their improvements were failing. And without those improvements, Federation technology was returning to its original, much more primitive state. How much of our infrastructure depends on human improvements? Asked another council member. Engineer Voss checked his datapad. Based on our analysis so far, approximately 73%. The number hit the Council like a physical blow. Nearly 3/4 of Federation civilization was running on human-improved technology. Technology they had just locked away behind an impenetrable barrier. As if the universe wanted to prove the point, the lights in the Council chamber flickered and went out. Emergency power came on a moment later, but the message was clear. The Federation had gotten exactly what they voted for. They just had not understood what they were really voting for. In the darkness, several council members were thinking the same thing. Maybe they should have listened more carefully to Ambassador Chen's last words. Maybe there was a difference between banishing Earth and banishing humanity that they had not considered. Maybe they had made a terrible mistake. 6 months after the humans disappeared behind the barrier, the Kepler Mining Consortium faced its worst day in 300 years of operation. Chief Operations Manager Thys was having her morning meal when every alarm in the building started screaming at once. "What's happening?" she demanded as she rushed into the control center. Her assistant, a young Klolani engineer named Vex, was staring at display screens showing red warning lights everywhere. "Ma'am, every automated facility just went dark. All 47 mining stations, every processing plant, every transport hub, they all stopped working at exactly the same time." Thys felt her stomach drop. The Kepler Consortium provided rare earth materials for half the Federation. If their operations stopped, entire industries would shut down within weeks. "Start emergency procedures," she ordered. "Switch to manual control." The manual override systems were connected to the main computer network. When that failed, we lost access to everything. Thys stared at the screens, showing her life's work going dark. "How is that possible? We have backup systems for our backup systems." Vex's voice was small and frightened. "Ma'am, according to the diagnostic logs, the primary failure started in something called the Chen-Patterson Quantum Management Protocol. Then it spread to the Singh efficiency algorithms, and finally took down what the system calls the Rodriguez Emergency Response Framework." Those names meant nothing to Thys, but they sent ice through her veins anyway. Chen, Singh, Rodriguez, those were human names. The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. On the manufacturing world of Prime Beta, every assembly line shut down when their AI supervisors simply stopped responding. The supervisors had been based on something called the Jackson Learning Matrix that no one remembered installing. In the Centauri Trade Hub, the massive cargo sorting systems that moved goods between worlds ground to a halt. Deep in their programming, investigators found algorithms written by someone named Thompson, and efficiency improvements credited to a Dr. Williams. The pattern was everywhere. Every critical system had human-designed elements buried so deep that other species engineers had forgotten they existed. Worse, these were not simple add-ons. The human code was woven into the basic structure of Federation technology, like threads in fabric. Remove the threads, and the whole thing fell apart. Ambassador Zethkar stood in the Federation Emergency Command Center, watching reports pour in from across the galaxy. His forearms hung limp at his sides as he read update after update of failing systems. "How did we not know?" he asked Chief Engineer Voss. "How did we not see that our technology depended on humans?" Voss looked exhausted. He had been working for days straight, trying to understand the scope of the problem. "Because they were very careful about how they helped us, sir. When humans improved our systems, they did it in ways that looked natural. A small efficiency gain here, a minor stability improvement there. Over decades, these small changes added up to major dependencies. But surely someone noticed." "Someone did, sir. The humans noticed. I've been reading old technical reports, and there are dozens of papers written by human engineers documenting exactly what they were doing. They shared their improvements openly. We just didn't pay attention." Zethkar felt sick. "Show me." Voss activated a holographic display, showing a technical report from 20 years ago. The title read, Integrated Efficiency Improvements in Hegemony Mining Operations, by Dr. Sarah Chen and team. Chen. Zethkar said slowly. Ambassador Chen? The same person, sir. Before she became a diplomat, she was one of the Federation's top systems engineers. And this is just one report. There are thousands of them. Humans documented every improvement they made to our technology. They published their work. They even offered training to other species engineers. Then why didn't our engineers learn? Voss's expression was bitter. Because most Federation species consider humans to be primitive newcomers. Our engineers thought human technology was crude and simple. They were happy to use improvements that made their work easier, but they never bothered to understand how those improvements worked. The truth was devastating. For decades, humans had been quietly holding Federation civilization together, not through force or manipulation, but through competence. They saw problems and fixed them. They found inefficiencies and corrected them. They turned barely working systems into smooth, reliable technology. And the Federation had expelled them for being too aggressive. Sir, another aide interrupted. We're getting reports of system failures from 6 more sectors. Also, the Outer Rim colonies are reporting that their defense grids are operating at 30% capacity. Zethkar closed his eyes. The defense grids protected frontier worlds from raiders and pirates. If those failed completely, millions of people would be in danger. What about the defense grid control systems? He asked. Originally designed by the Collective using harmony-based protocols, Voss replied, checking his files. But they were improved 17 times over the past 50 years. Every improvement was made by human engineers, working with Federation approval. Can we fix the problems ourselves? We're trying, sir, but human engineering is different. They don't just solve problems. They solve problems in ways that prevent other problems from happening. Their code is incredibly elegant and efficient. Our engineers can barely understand it, let alone replicate it. As if to prove the point, the lights in the command center flickered. The backup power systems kicked in, but they were louder and less stable than the primary systems had been. Sir, Vex's voice came through the communication system. We've managed to get one mining station back online using pre-human technology. But it's operating at about 20% of previous efficiency, and the processing quality is terrible. That was the real problem, Zethkar realized. Federation species had not just become dependent on human technology. They had become used to human-level quality and efficiency. Going back to their old ways of doing things felt like going backwards in time. Have we tried contacting Earth? He asked. We can't, sir. The barrier we installed blocks all communication both ways. We would have to shut down a section of the barrier to send a message. Zethkar stared at the reports of failing systems spreading across the galaxy. The Federation had built the strongest prison in galactic history to contain the humans. Now it was keeping them from asking for help. Sir, another aide said urgently, we're getting emergency signals from the medical stations in the Vega system. Their life support systems are failing. They need immediate assistance or patients will die. The weight of the situation hit Zethkar like a physical blow. People were going to die because the Federation had been too proud to see how much they needed the humans they had just banished. Prepare an emergency session of the Federation Council, he ordered, and start analyzing what it would take to lower part of the barrier. As his aides rushed to carry out his orders, Zethkar looked at the holographic report, still floating in the air. Dr. Sarah Chen's name was at the top, along with her photo from 20 years ago. She looked younger, but she had the same calm expression she had worn during the banishment vote. The same expression that had said, without words, "You have no idea what you're doing." He was beginning to understand that she had been right. The Federation Council chamber looked very different from 6 months ago. Where there had once been celebration and confidence, Now there was only panic and fear. Half the seats were empty because representatives could not travel to the capital. The transportation networks had failed. The remaining delegates looked tired and worried. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center podium, but he no longer looked like the confident leader who had pushed for human banishment. His stone-like skin seemed gray, and his forearms moved nervously as he spoke. "Fellow delegates," he began, "the situation has become critical. 17 sectors are now experiencing major infrastructure failures. Food production is down 40% across the Federation. Defense systems are failing on 12 border worlds, and our engineers tell us that we cannot fix these problems without human assistance." The Voltari delegation clicked their claws loudly in distress. The Netlord representative's tank bubbled with agitation. Even the Peaceful Harmony Collective looked upset. "You told us the humans were the problem," shouted Representative Clicks from the Trading Consortium. "You said removing them would make us safer." "We were wrong," Zethkar admitted, the words feeling like poison in his mouth. "We did not understand how deeply integrated human technology had become with our own systems." Chief Engineer Voss stepped forward to address the council. His report was devastating. "In the past month, we have lost control of 47% of all automated systems across the Federation. Food distribution networks have collapsed in 8 sectors. The faster-than-light communication array that allows us to talk across the galaxy is operating at 30% capacity. If this continues, we face the complete breakdown of galactic civilization." The chamber erupted in frightened chatter. These were species that had known only peace and prosperity for generations. The idea of their technology failing was like the idea of gravity stopping working. Representative Thiss from the Mining Consortium stood up. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" Voss looked uncomfortable. "We need to contact Earth and ask for human assistance in repairing our systems." The silence that followed was deafening. The Federation had just spent months celebrating their freedom from human influence. Now they were being told they needed to beg the humans for help. "The barrier prevents all communication," another representative pointed out. "How do we contact them?" "We would need to temporarily lower a section of the energy barrier," Voss explained, "just long enough to send a message." Lowering the barrier meant admitting that the quarantine had been a mistake. It meant swallowing their pride and asking for forgiveness from the species they had just banished. But as reports continued to come in of failing systems and growing chaos, the choice became clear. The Federation could maintain their pride and watch their civilization collapse, or they could admit their mistake and ask for help. The vote to temporarily lower the barrier passed by a narrow margin. 3 days later, Federation engineers carefully shut down a small section of the barrier around Earth's solar system. It was like opening a tiny window in a massive wall. Immediately, they sent a priority message toward Earth. "This is the Galactic Federation Emergency Council to Earth Government. We need to discuss urgent infrastructure problems affecting Federation space. Please respond immediately." The response came back so quickly that the Federation engineers jumped. They had expected to wait hours or even days for Earth to receive and answer their message. Instead, a reply arrived in less than 2 minutes. But the voice that answered was not from Earth. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen, responding to Federation emergency request." The Federation engineers stared at their communication equipment in confusion. According to their sensors, the signal was coming from inside the Sol system, exactly where Earth should be. But at the same time, their instruments detected the same signal coming from 50 other locations scattered across the galaxy. "Ambassador Chen," came the hasty response from Federation Command, "we are experiencing critical infrastructure failures across Federation space. Our engineers believe these failures are related to the removal of human technology from our systems. We need help." Chen's response was calm and patient, as if she had been expecting this conversation. I understand. The Federation is having some technical difficulties. Before we discuss solutions, I think there may be some confusion about the current situation that needs to be clarified. What kind of confusion? The Federation voted to banish Earth from galactic civilization. You voted to quarantine the Sol system. The barriers you built successfully contain the planet Earth and everything around it. But there seems to be some misunderstanding about what that vote actually accomplished. The Federation engineers looked at each other nervously. There was something in Chen's tone that made them very uncomfortable. You see, Chen continued, the Federation made a common mistake. You assumed that humanity was limited to Earth. You thought that by containing our home planet, you were containing our species. But humanity stopped being an Earth-only species about 200 years ago. The communications center fell silent except for the humming of equipment. We have been exploring, settling, and establishing outposts far beyond Earth's reach for centuries. Not secret military bases or hidden weapons facilities. Simply human communities living quietly in places where other species never thought to look. Federation Command found their voice again. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected any human settlements. Chen's laugh was soft, but somehow terrifying. Your sensors were designed by humans, using human detection algorithms, with human-created blind spots. We've been hiding in plain sight because we designed the very systems that were supposed to find us. The implications hit the Federation like a physical blow. If humans had been established throughout the galaxy long before the banishment, then the quarantine had been meaningless. Earth might be contained, but humanity was still everywhere. How many of you are there? Someone whispered. Enough, Chen replied simply. We never needed to live on Federation worlds or follow Federation rules. We did those things because we chose to be part of galactic civilization. But the Federation has made it clear that our participation is not wanted. We made a mistake, Federation Command said quickly. We didn't understand. Oh, you understood perfectly, Chen interrupted, her voice still calm, but with an edge of steel. You understood that humans were too aggressive, too independent, too dangerous for your civilization. You were absolutely right about that. You just didn't understand what it meant to push us out. The silence stretched on for long minutes. What do you want? Federation Command finally asked. Chen's answer came with that same calm smile the Federation was learning to fear. The Federation voted to establish new rules for how this galaxy works. Now humanity is going to make some rules of our own, and everyone is going to follow them because the alternative is watching your civilization collapse around you. The communication ended, leaving the Federation with the terrible knowledge that they had not solved their human problem at all. They had simply made it much, much worse. The Federation Council Chamber had never seen anything like it. For the first time in galactic history, the meeting was not being held in the Grand Capitol building, but through emergency communication links scattered across dozens of failing worlds. Representatives appeared as holographic projections, many sitting in darkened rooms lit only by backup power. Ambassador Sarah Chen's image appeared at the center podium, but she was not alone. Behind her stood dozens of other humans, some in simple civilian clothes, others in military uniforms, and a few in the white coats of scientists and engineers. They had appeared seemingly from nowhere, as if they had been waiting in the shadows for this moment. Distinguished delegates, Chen began with that same calm smile. Thank you for accepting our invitation to discuss the new arrangement. Invitation? Sputtered Representative Clicks. You shut down our transportation networks and communication systems. We had no choice but to accept. Exactly, Chen replied pleasantly. You are beginning to understand how this is going to work. Zethkar's projection flickered as his world's power grid struggled to maintain the connection. Ambassador Chen, the Federation is willing to admit we made mistakes. We are prepared to negotiate the return of human membership in the Federation. Chen's expression did not change, but somehow the temperature in every room seemed to drop several degrees. I think you still do not understand the situation, she said. The Federation voted to banish Earth. That vote stands. Earth remains quarantined exactly as you decided. But humanity was never asking to rejoin the Federation. She gestured to the humans standing behind her. Let me introduce some people you should have met long ago. Dr. Martinez, who has been running the agricultural systems that feed half your populations from a hidden facility in the Andromeda region. Commander Jackson, whose teams have been protecting your trade routes from pirates using ships you never knew existed. Professor Lee, who designed the quantum communication networks that let you talk across the galaxy from her laboratory in a system your maps don't even show. Each human stepped forward as Chen said their name, and each one looked at the Federation delegates with the same calm, patient expression. It was the look adults gave to children who had finally realized they were in trouble. For 2 centuries, Chen continued, humanity has been the backbone of galactic civilization. Not because we asked for control, but because no one else was capable of handling the complex problems of maintaining a galaxy-spanning civilization. We fixed your technology, defended your worlds, solved your crises, and kept your people fed and safe. And you hid all of this from us, accused another representative. We hid nothing, Chen replied firmly. Every improvement we made was documented. Every system we designed was explained. Every problem we solved was reported. You simply chose not to pay attention because you thought humans were primitive newcomers who had nothing important to offer. Professor Liu stepped forward. I published 47 papers on quantum communication improvements over the past 30 years. Each paper was submitted to Federation scientific journals. Each one was ignored because the reviewers decided that humans could not possibly understand advanced physics. Commander Jackson spoke next. My fleet has been fighting pirates and raiders for 20 years. Every action was reported to Federation Defense Command. The reports were filed away and forgotten, because human military doctrine was considered too aggressive to be worth studying. The pattern was clear and humiliating. The Federation had been saved by human competence, while simultaneously dismissing humans as unworthy of respect. What do you want from us? Zethkar asked quietly. Chen's smile became warmer, but somehow that made it more frightening. We want to formalize an arrangement that has already existed for 200 years. The Federation will continue to exist exactly as it has been. Your species will continue to live on your worlds, manage your local affairs, and maintain your cultures. But you will acknowledge what has always been true, that humanity is responsible for maintaining the systems that keep galactic civilization running. You want us to become your subjects, accused Representative Fiss. You already are our subjects, Chen replied with devastating simplicity. You have been for decades. The only difference is that now you know it. Thousands of tiny lights appeared, scattered across every sector. Each light represents a human facility, colony, or outpost that has been operating without Federation knowledge. Some are research stations developing new technology. Others are manufacturing centers producing the spare parts that keep your systems running. Many are simply communities of humans who chose to live away from Federation oversight. The scope was breathtaking. Humans had built a parallel civilization alongside the Federation, invisible but essential. The terms are simple, Chen continued. Humanity will continue to maintain, protect, and improve galactic civilization. In return, the Federation will provide resources, labor, and cooperation as requested. You will follow human guidance on matters of technology, defense, and large-scale infrastructure. And if we refuse? Asked another delegate. Dr. Martinez answered that question. Then you go back to managing your own affairs, with your own technology. No human assistance, no human improvements, no human protection. Your civilization returns to the level it was at before we started helping you. The delegates looked around at their failing communication systems, their darkened chambers, and their dying technology. They had seen what life without human assistance looked like over the past 6 months. It was not a pleasant future. "This is extortion," someone protested weakly. "No," Chen corrected gently. "This is reality. For centuries, your species have been free to develop your own technology, solve your own problems, and protect your own worlds. You chose not to. You chose to rely on human solutions to human problems. Now you face the consequences of that choice." She paused, letting the weight of the situation sink in. "The Federation voted to banish Earth because you found human independence threatening. You were right to be concerned. Humanity is independent. We do not need your permission to exist, your approval to act, or your cooperation to survive. We helped you because we chose to be part of galactic civilization, but that choice was never permanent." The chamber fell silent, except for the humming of struggling equipment. "The good news," Chen said, her expression becoming genuinely warm for the first time, "is that we still choose to be part of galactic civilization. Humanity has no desire to rule over other species or destroy the Federation. We simply want recognition for what we do and authority to do it properly." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Zethkar asked. Commander Jackson answered. "It means human ships will patrol Federation space openly, instead of hiding from your sensors. Human engineers will work on your systems with full authority to make necessary changes. Human colonies will be acknowledged and included in galactic maps. And when humanity says something is necessary for galactic security or stability, it gets done without debate. You will be benevolent dictators," observed Representative Klix. "We will be competent administrators," Chen corrected. "Just as we have been for 200 years. The only change is that we are no longer hiding it." Over the next several hours, the details were worked out. Human technology began coming back online across the galaxy, as hidden facilities revealed themselves and started transmitting repair instructions. Food production resumed. Communication networks stabilized. Defense systems powered up. Within a week, Federation space was running more smoothly than it had in months. The difference was that now, everyone knew who was really in charge. Earth remained quarantined, exactly as the Federation had voted. But humanity was everywhere else, no longer hiding their true capabilities or pretending to be junior partners in galactic civilization. The Federation had gotten exactly what they voted for. They had banished Earth and removed humans from their official membership. They just had not understood that doing so would reveal how dependent they were on the humans they had rejected. As Ambassador Chen had said during that final vote 6 months ago, the Federation has made its choice. Now humanity has made ours. The galaxy was learning to live with the consequences of both decisions. And in the end, everyone had to admit that human rules worked better than Federation rules had ever worked, even if they were no longer allowed to pretend they had any choice about following them.